All right, learning target 7 is construct a linear equation given a graph. Basically, this is going to be the reverse of something that we did, I don't know, last week. Um, but basically, you're going to be given a graph, and from the graph, you're going to write the equation. Whereas before it was, okay, here's an equation, now you make a graph. Like that was the last checkup. But this one is sort of the reverse of that in that you are given a graph, and now we're saying, okay, take that graph and write the equation for it. To sort of work backwards. And to do this, you're always going to need 2 points um, to be able to find the slope, which we have talked about is the change in y over change in x, or also rise over run. And so we're going to need 2 points so that we have 2 y coordinates to go up here and 2 x coordinates to go down there. Okay, so in your first example here, you're going to want to pick out 2 points that make it easy for you. Okay, so like I'm not going to pick that one and that one because I would have to estimate. I really have no idea what those 2 points are. Okay, so I could maybe estimate and say like 3.5, but I don't even know if like that's the true x coordinate. So when you pick out points, make sure you pick points that are going to be fairly easy to use. So like that one, that gives you the y-intercept right there. So if you can find the y-intercept, I would do that for every single one of these. Another point that would be easy to use is right there because it's right along these marks here on the graph. So our first point up there is 0, 4, and our second point is 2, 1. And so if I look at my equation, I already know these are mx plus b form. I already know this b because I know the y-intercept, so I already know that that's going to be 4. To find the slope here, if I kind of draw lines between these 2 points, I see that I'm going down 1, 2, 3 on the y, and that matches up here with 4 minus 1. And over here on the x side of things, I'm going plus 2. And that sort of matches up here. From 0 to 2, we have plus 2. So if I'm using this, I get 3 over 2. And, oh, I wrote that backwards actually. That should be 1 minus 4 over 2. And so that gives us negative 3 over 2. And that's what we see here, is we're going down 3 over 2. So I can take it from here, I can take it from right there, but the slope is going to be negative 3 over positive 2. So to clean that up a little bit, negative 3 over 2, x plus 4. Okay, so it's exactly the reverse of what you were doing before. Whereas before, we would give you this equation and tell you to graph that. Now we're saying here's a graph, find the equation. All right, and so in our second example, I'm going to pick out a couple points, and this is going to be easy to pick the y-axis or the y-intercept there. And it looks like here's another nice point there. And so the coordinates of these are 0, negative 4, and 1, 1. So if I'm finding the change in y over change in x, it looks like y is changing from negative 4 to 1. That's a difference of positive 5. And from 0 to 1, that's a change of positive 1. So I know my slope is going to be 5 over 1, or just 5, x, plus the y-intercept down here at negative 4. Okay? You could also see that same thing by drawing in these little lines here. This one's going up 5. That one's going over 1 in the positive direction. So again, you can see that 5 over 1 from that as well. In the next examples here, I'm going to pick the y-intercept right there. And it looks like it kind of goes nicely through that point there. So I've got 0, 0, and 5, 3. And so if I do the change in y over change in x to find slope, y is changing, it's going up by 3. X is changing, going up by 5. And I can verify that the slope is going to be 3 over 5. If I draw these in, this is going up 3, that's going to the right 5. So the slope is 3/5. And it crosses the y-axis right there at 0. So I could just write 3/5 x. Alright, in this next one, we've got a point right here. We've got a point right there. And so for this one, I'm just going to do it this way. I'm not going to worry about the whole change in y over change in x thing. We've got a y-intercept here at -5. So we're going to have a -5 on the end of this equation. We're going down 1 and 1, 2, 3, 4 to the right. So you're always working from the point on the left to the point on the right. Okay? You can sometimes work backwards, but I'm just going to tell you right now I wouldn't, because it's confusing. So I would always work from the point on the left to the point on the right. And so in that case, we're going down 1 and to the right 4. So this is going to be a -1 over 4, or -1/4, x minus 5. Now before we get to the before class, and I know this is not on your notes, but I want to give you an example of something a little bit different. So in all the examples we've looked at, all of the, both of the axes have been scaled by 1s. I want to look at what happens when they're not scaled by 1s. So let's say we'll scale the x-axis by 2s, and the y-axis will go by 5s. So we'll make that 5, 10, 15, 20. If I have a point there on this line, and if I have a point over here on that line, I'll draw in my line real quick. Then what we're looking at here is, if you're only counting boxes, and we've talked about this a little bit in class, but if you're only counting boxes, it's going to look like your slope is going up 1 and to the right 3. And so in this case, if you were just looking at this, thinking maybe scaled by 1s, your equation would be 1/3 x plus 1. Okay? But if you pay more attention and you see what is really happening with these values, the coordinates of this point are 0, 5, and the coordinates of this point are 6, 10. And so if you look at the change in y, it's really going up 5, and the change in x is going up 6. And that gives us a slope of 5/6. That's not at all the same as 1/3, not even close. Okay? So it's very, very important that you pay attention to how the axes are scaled, and what the coordinates are, and how much are you actually going up on this y-axis, how much are you actually going over on the x-axis. Okay? Because that's what's going to give you the accurate slope. And so this is not the correct equation. The correct equation is actually y equals 5/6 x plus 5. We cross right there at 5. Okay? So please just double check. I would say most of the time it's going to be scaled by 1, but not all the time. So please just make sure and check the scale, and make sure that you're actually counting what's happening to the y values and what's happening to the x values for those coordinate points. Okay? Your before class is similar to a lot of the things we've done before. You're going to draw 4 lines on your graph. They can be any type of line. They can be some of those special case lines. They can be some positive, negative lines. It can be a straight vertical or straight horizontal line. And then write an equation for each of the lines that you've drawn on your graph. Okay?